Happy to welcome back to the program Tom Clasby, Director of the Quincy Council on Aging. Now that it is the merry month of May, things are starting to happen in a good way. Hey, Tom.
Joseph, how are you?
Doing great. Nice to see you. Thanks for spending some time with us.
It's always good to see you, and it's always nice to be with everybody.
And we have some exciting, positive news to report.
Absolutely. It seems like it's been a long time since we've said any of that, but yes, we will be opening on June 1, which is Tuesday. It's a Tuesday, and so we'll be opening up, finally in a limited capacity, but it's a start and it's the first step, and hopefully it'll be the first step, and we'll move kind of. I don't want to say rapidly, but we're going to watch everything, and the goal is to move quickly as possible to full capacity. Right back to where we were when we left off. So long ago now.
I know it's over a year now. It seems It's just incredible. Talk a little bit about why June 1st and the thought process leading up to that.
Yeah, well, I was anxious to open, have been anxious to open for quite some time, but we wanted to make sure that it was safe to do so. And I think just kind of looking at the data and seeing, some of the states that opened up, they've done pretty well. And New York City, I guess 15 million are going to be opening fairly soon to it. And of course, the governor recently put out 100% capacity at restaurants. So, and all the numbers seem to be, holding nicely, so it's not like with these major spikes, and I think by June 1st certainly most people will be vaccinated. I mean, the great share, anybody that wants to be vaccinated will be vaccinated by that time, so in my estimation is that's probably 98% of the people that would be coming in here at least, so between that and the other things that we'll do to make sure that the place is safe, I feel quite comfortable that we can do this and do it right.
It's great news. I'm sure a lot of people have been anxious and calling and asking when. So it's
they have been. We've gotten a lot of calls and phone calls rather, and emails and things of that nature, and conversations just when we've been out and about. People are anxious, and we're anxious to have them back. I wonder what the story will be, and I've said this, I think you and I have had conversations about this, the impact, we don't really even know yet. Not to be Debbie Downer, but I think, there's been some serious, negative impact to everybody, not just elders, but, the school kids, and, they've given up a lot. My nephew just graduated from Bentley, and I was so pleased that they did the graduation at the Fenway Park. I wasn't there, but I did catch on the news that the class preceding him that didn't have a graduation was also there, and I thought, what a great thing. I don't know who thought of that, but it's terrific because that class in particular, got blindsided and missed out on so very much. That was really nice to see.
Yeah, and like you said, it has impacted everybody one way or another. So it'll be interesting to see how folks come back to the Kennedy Center, and then how they start relating to each other. Once they're there.
Absolutely, that's going to be something for us to really watch, and it's going to be a little bit difficult. So if I can, and I'm glad you brought it up, but there will be some changes. First thing, when we open on June 1st, it's not going to be open house and everyone comes in. On that particular day, we'll have exercise and yoga. So those activities take place in the gym. It's quite easy for people to spread out, and we'll have markers that make sure that they're spread out. Before they even, I should say, once they come into the building. Now, in the old days, you had your little keychain with your barcode on it, and you'd hit the barcode, and then on the computer screen, various activities would come up, and you would touch the computer screen to indicate which activity you're going to. So we won't have you touching the screen anymore. You'll still come in and show your barcode, but that's just a simple scan. You don't have to touch anything. And then a volunteer that has gloves on will ask you, oh, Mrs. Smith, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to yoga. Okay, they'll hit the button for you. So we won't have a lot of traffic on the, not to risk any contamination. So that'll be one thing. And then, as I said, the activities in the gym are spread out. We will have fogged. We actually were ahead of that curve. I think I mentioned, just by happenstance, because of cold and flu season, I had purchased the fogging machines for disinfectants, and the product that we use is absolutely fantastic. I mean, first of all, it is a 99.999% rating to kill coronavirus, but it also kills HIV. It kills the Norwalk virus, the swine flu, whatever flu basically comes in. And the neat thing about it is, when you fog, that settles on stuff, and it continues to work for hours, up to 9 hours after. But we won't take any chances even with that. We'll still, if your class comes in, if the place will have been fogged, that class will take place. And then after they leave, that'll be redone again. So the building will be very, very well sanitized. It's funny, after 9/11, as soon as they opened up the airports, I'm on the alumni board of my university out in Ohio, and I had to fly into Pittsburgh, and I had a friend that worked in the airport, and he said to me, "Boy, you're a brave man flying, now." And I thought to myself, brave? No, right now, right after September, they just opened the airport. It was absolutely the safest time you could possibly imagine, because everything was every. And I think the TSA, it's still, very, very safe to fly. We've had no major incidences since. That'll be the same with this. But right now, when you walk into the building, I feel very, very confident saying that you'll be safe. I think that people are going to be vaccinated, and we will require masks. And then the use of this fogging machine, the air in the Kennedy Center, we originally updated the system when we took over the building. And then when we had all those floods, there was damage done. So we put in a whole new air filtration system. And we have the MERV rated filters. So the air comes into the building, and before it even gets distributed, it goes through a filtering system. So it's high quality, clean air. It's exhausted, and then new air is brought in, again, goes through that air filtering system. So it's really, it's probably more clean than the air you're getting outside. And that's always been the case. So I just think with all those measures in, we'll be confident. And then we're still not, like I said, we're still being cautious in the sense that we're only going to have those activities going on, and then activities in the classroom and such. The cafe will probably remain closed for some time with a foreseeable future. We'll take that as we go. That's really a small enclosed area. So I want to just, and I think we're just being cautious on that. I think we probably could do it, but we're not going to right now.
Sure. Will folks have to pre-register in advance, Tom? Will there be kind of occupancy limits in the building?
Yeah, there will be occupancy limits. We feel like we won't have to pre-register only because really, as we looked at the data for those classes and what we can have in the gym and what we're allowed to have in the building, we should be okay. Those numbers, I mean, I'm not expecting people that haven't taken those classes. There'll be a few, but I mean, not a massive amount of people that haven't taken those classes to come in. So we're not going to start with the pre-registration. Now, we may, if that turns out to be a mistake, then we, moving forward, we will. But I think we'll be okay. especially because of the size of the gym is so, so big that we should be fine.
Okay, good. And will vaccination be a requirement?
As I look into that, I don't think we can, and I know some agencies have said that, and certainly some of the people that we deal with have. But I was told that because it hasn't yet been approved by the FDA, that legally you can't make it a requirement, because technically, even though it is a vaccine, technically it's not or an approved drug just yet. So I'm going to cross that bridge when we come to it. It's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. My first thought was that we probably would have to make that a requirement. Having said that, though, just from the people that I've talked to, and the governor had a press conference, you probably saw it today, he had a press conference, and he talked about the high level of the folks that are getting vaccinated. I think just about everybody in the building here is gone for their second shot now. So, my thinking is that we'll be fine, even if we don't require it.
Sure, yeah. Like you say, it's only emergency use authorization at this point.
At this point.
But Massachusetts has the lowest hesitancy rate in the country. So,
yeah.
And the senior population probably is even lower than that.
And people should realize, to alleviate, like I was talking to my doctor, I went last week, and he said that the vaccine is effective. So even if you're in contact with someone that has vaccinated, if you've been vaccinated and that thing's taken full effect, you can have a certain level of confidence that, people they're still very nervous, and I understand that, but I think if you've been vaccinated, you should have a reasonable amount of confidence, particularly with all the other measures that we're taking in here, that you're going to be fine.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's a bit of normalcy starting to return, and people are really looking forward to that. Will there be any kind of Senior Olympics this year?
I don't think, well, I talked with Michelle a little bit, and we may possibly do like a one-day event. We're just kicking that idea around. We certainly can't do the whole shebang just yet. However, we definitely I'm saying no question, unless there's another catastrophic outbreak, but we're planning next year having the full thing. But right now, yeah, we're looking into the possibility of doing maybe a one-day track and field event or something to that effect. And I'm also looking into, doing things outside of the Kennedy Center, because for so many years, as you know, we did that. We were all over the place. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea of having a center was that we'd have a central place that the seniors could call their own. Years ago, I was going to the Fall River Clubhouse, and I was going up to the Parks Department, and we were using a lot of the private places. We used the library, but a lot of many of the public buildings, good places as well. These assisted living places were always good. Having said that, though, I may do a few things outside if we can utilize Patch and Field for some things, and the Fall River Clubhouse for some things too. We may look into the possibility of doing some of that stuff.
Okay. Any changes to the transportation at all, Tom, that folks should know about?
So transportation, has been running pretty much throughout, but in a limited capacity. They also go through the same sanitation, that I talked about, this fogging system, and again, that'll settle into. We're hoping we will have people using it to get here. We're going to have to increase in those numbers. I haven't yet really checked into, Joe, how much. I don't think at this point we can have full capacity on the vehicles.
Yeah.
And really it's been quite a limited capacity, maybe 2 of the 3 at the most folks. But I do think we're going to be able to add to that,
Sure.
So, but no major changes just yet on that.
Okay. And will some of the online stuff still go on even after you open?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think some people have gotten used to that. We had the video of Marge doing her yoga stuff. Occasionally she couldn't make, a class here and would put it in, or if she was on vacation at that time, she didn't have any substitute teachers. Now she has substitute teachers. But folks may like to, tune into, you guys have been so fantastic to us. And I think people I know people have gotten used to watching on those particular days. So there may be some that can't get down here and they might want to continue doing that. So sure, I mean, it's harmless. I think if we've learned anything, from this, is we have found a way to adapt. And thank God for technology. I mean, you think about it, even 20 years ago, you and I really probably couldn't do this.
You're right.
So it's just come so far. And, I think as difficult as these times were, grandparents not being able to touch their grandchildren, at least they could see them and have a conversation. I know my niece, long before the pandemic, had studied in Ireland, and we would often do Skype, and my mother and father get such a kick out of seeing her over there and talking to her. And letters are great, and in some way that's a lost art, but it's kind of nice to have that instantaneous communication and be able to see a face. So we've come a long way.
Yeah, oh, for sure. There's no question. Are you trying to maybe, long run down the road, have some kind of a giant celebration?
Yeah. And something, I think if everything were perfect, that we would, because we love to have parties and people show up, and like that was our first thought was, oh, we'll have a big, and then we're like, maybe we can't do that just yet, So, but to answer your question, yes, I fully intend to, when we, know that we can do it safely, we want to have some kind of a big thing, to commemorate that we've gotten through this and that we're back. I was thinking about when we first opened and how people would come in and they poke their head in and it was a huge success, but it didn't happen like overnight. I mean, we got things in and people started to come in and there was a good buzz about the place. And there was more enjoyment, and then different things were added on over time. And so in a sense, I feel like we're going to be back there. Now, not quite, but because I think a lot of people are used and they're looking forward to coming back. But at the same time, that we're 59, that are now 60, that are eligible, that weren't before the pandemic hit. So there'll be new faces, no doubt.
Yeah, and maybe a project in the future too, to everybody kind of share their pandemic experience, if you will.
Well, it's funny because that's something also the other day I was just thinking about. We all have our own stories, and and they're both difficult, and there's a lot of great things that happen during this. People always rise to the occasion. So I agree with you. I think that would be very, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else we should let folks know about right now, Tom?
I don't think so. They can always call us if they need anything. We are here, and we've been doing all the other things. I want to just give a shout out to the people, the volunteers that do our taxes, because we did not know how that was going to go. And I'll tell you, talk about just not going without a hitch. They were terrific. And we really, the staff here does very little with that. We do some stuff in the beginning to kind of help things get coordinated. Once tax time comes, they just take off with it. And they met people at the front door. They would get the things, they'd come in, prepare the taxes, and if they had any questions, they could go out to the folks. But I'll tell you, it really was, and for the most part, the weather cooperated, but there were days that were quite cold and few that were rainy, and they were real troopers going out there and getting the data from people, and then doing the sitting down, getting the taxes done, and then bringing it back. So they really did a fantastic job.
It's great. It's a great example of people stepping up to the plate.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's a good number for folks to call if they want to ask questions?
So they can call 617-376-1506. That's the best number to call, and then we can get them to wherever they have to go from there. But that's the best number to call.
Okay, great. Appreciate it, Tom. Always good to see you.
Likewise, my friend, and thank you so much for everything. You guys, QATV, have just been fantastic throughout this thing, and I think the way you've kept people informed so responsibly, you really deserve a kudos for that, and how good you've been to us. You've been a lifeline from us to the community, so we appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's our pleasure. And next time, we're going to have you in this studio.
Sounds good.
All right,
Sounds good.
Take care.